Hello and welcome everyone. So after understanding different types of columns and the mechanism of bucklings of column failures, now we arrive to the design of compression members. And here we are going to see what are the provisions being given in the IS codes. So as we have seen, the design of tension member was given in the section number 6 of the IS code. So here the design of compression member is given in the section 7 of the IS code. So now we have opened this section 7 from IS 800, and as I have said you that the formulas in the design of compression member are not very difficult. Here you just have to learn the basic concept, very basic concepts of use of tables. Here already everything is calculated and given in the tables, and now we have to use those tables and do some interpolation to get the design compressive strength. So what is this design compressive strength? When I say it, design strength of a compressive member. So basically we use commonly hot rolled and built up steel members for carrying axial compression, which usually fail by flexural buckling. Alright, and the buckling strength of these members is affected by three factors. The three factors which affect the buckling strength. Now the first factor is the here accidental eccentricity, which we have discussed. Second one is the initial bow, that is the crookedness or the member having a profile out of a straightness due to past loading history. And the third reason is the presence of residual stresses due to fabrication or erection of the member. So these three factors are very important, which cause the imperfection in the columns. So we have to incorporate some factors to compensate for these three imperfections which are basically found in the compression members. And as I have discussed that the design of compression member is critical and little alertness has to be given here in comparison with the design of tension members. In tension members, we just have to calculate the value of net sectional area and apply the three design formula TDN, TDG and TDB. But here, although you have to calculate only one value of design compressive strength PD, but for that we have to incorporate few imperfection factor, and that is called the buckling classes. Okay, so the same thing is here written that to account for all these three factors, the strength of compression members subjected to axial compression is defined by buckling class A, B, C and D as given in table 7. So there are 4 buckling classes here said. Now as I said, in the design of compression member you have to learn the use of tables here. Now all those tables are listed in this IS code, IS 800 only. And there is table 7, okay, and then there is table 8, and then there is table 9, there is table 10, and there is table 11. So all these 5 tables are going to be very important to understand the design of compression member. Now the table 7, you can write it in your notes that this table 7 gives us the different buckling classes, and for those buckling classes what are the imperfection factor that we are going to use. Imperfection factor is also represented by a symbol alpha. Alright, so here table 7 incorporate for different buckling classes all the value of alphas, and table 7 is very short. Now table 8 is again not very much important as such in design, because you will see how it is not very important, but yes, it is generally given for stress reduction factor. Okay, so this table 8 will not be very much useful for us as such, but if someone wants to use, then he can go for this method also, and he can use table number 8 also. But you will see in the process that table 8 will not come in use much. And this stress reduction factor is represented by the letter X, and this X value is like this, okay. And this table 9 is very important, where all the calculation has been done and the values are listed there for different values of yield stresses and slenderness ratio, and that is about our design compressive strength. So this is what we have to calculate all the time. I will always be in the need of calculation of design compressive strength, and this is being represented by letter FCD, all right. And design compressive strength will be given for different values of yield strength of the member and the slenderness ratio of different members, and we have to do here interpolation. Then comes the table 10, and table 10 will list down all the different sections and the buckling classes of different section, okay. Here we will know about which buckling class a section belongs to, all right. And table 11 is also very important, and this is about our effective length, and effective length is represented by K times the actual length of the member, all right. So all these 5 tables are very important, but if you like, you may ignore this table 8 as such, because this will not be used much here. So let us begin the design of compression members now. Now the design of compression member can be done by 2 approaches. One is the use of empirical formula. So this approach is called empirical approach, and here we use empirical formulas being laid down in the IS code, okay. And this approach can be used by a student if he likes, but we will prefer the tabular approach, and this is relatively easier than empirical approach. So you can use any of the approach and you will get the same values of design compressive strength. So in our classes we will try to understand this tabular approach, not this empirical approach, because this is involving a lot of calculations and it also takes our time much. But try to understand that this tabular approach is same as the empirical approach. Here in this tabular approach, we just have to learn the concept of interpolation, and interpolation is very easy if you have done it, because it simply uses 3 points lying on a straight line. If this is my straight line, and if I know 2 points on the straight line like this point and this point, then we should be able to calculate the value of this point also, okay. So what is this? If you can calculate, so you know this method of interpolation. So interpolation is not very difficult, so you can do it in the tabular approach, but I will try to explain both the approaches, and let us begin the empirical approach in brief. In the empirical approach, the design compressive strength is represented by here PD, okay. So this is compressive strength, PD is a force here, okay. This is not the FCD like that. So here the external axial compression force that is coming on the compression member axially P, it should be less than the design compressive strength, all right. So now we have to calculate the value of PD, okay. What is the value of PD? What is this design compressive capacity of the member? And all the compressive forces that is going to come on that member should be less than this capacity of the member, okay. Now this PD will be equal to area of the cross section, or the effective area of cross section, multiplied by the design compressive strength FCD, okay. So we have written here PD is equal to FCD. So here the same thing is written, PD is equal to AE into FCD, and AE is the effective sectional area, and it is also given in 7.3.2 clause. And FCD is the design compressive stress, okay, obtained as per clause 7.1.2.1, which is just given here, okay. Now here area of the gross section of the member is same as the net sectional area in case of compression member, as we have discussed, because there is no reduction of holes here. Here in this case we can write AG is equal to A net. Alright, so in most of the cases IS code recommends us to use the gross sectional area only. So AE calculation is not very difficult. Now we have to calculate this design compressive stress, FCD. Alright, and FCD is given by this empirical formula, of course, of which I don't have any proof. That's why I call it empirical formula. Okay, so this formula is being laid down by the IS code, and here after research these formulas are given only. So the design compressive stress FCD of axially loaded compression members shall be calculated using the following equation. Now if you are going by empirical approach, you have to calculate the value of FCD using this formula, and here Fy is the yield stress of the material of the member, gamma MO is equal to 1.1 as usual, divided by phi plus root under phi square minus lambda square, and it should be equated, it can be written as the same formula is equated here equal to x times Fy by gamma MO. Here x is said to be stress reduction factor, and this can be written as 1 by phi plus root under phi square minus lambda square, and you can see this value of x is said to be here stress reduction factor for different buckling classes, slenderness ratio and yield stress, okay, and it is equal to 1 upon phi plus root under phi square minus lambda square. Alright, so this stress reduction factor is clearly given in table 8, and it is given for different buckling classes. So table 8 is divided into 4 parts because there are 4 buckling classes. So we have table number 8A, 8B, 8C, 8D. All these 4 tables of table 8 list down the value of a stress reduction factor for buckling class A, buckling class B, buckling class C and buckling class D, and I will be showing all these tables just in the due course, and this value is given for different slenderness ratio and yield stress, okay, and here the value of phi is equal to 1 by 2 into 1 plus alpha into lambda minus 0.2 plus lambda square. Here the lambda value is not the usual slenderness ratio. Lambda is here non-dimensional effective slenderness ratio. So slenderness ratio is equal to KL by R, but here lambda is not equal to KL by R. Lambda is equal to root under of Fy by FCC, and here FCC is the Euler buckling stress and Fy is the yield stress, and Euler buckling stress will be equal to pi square E times 1 by lambda square, or also we can say FCC is equal to pi square E divided by KL by R square, which is the slenderness ratio square. So Fy upon FCC is written here like this also by putting the value of FCC. So from here we can see that if we know the buckling class A, B, C and D, so for all those buckling classes we have to employ the value of imperfection factor alpha, and this alpha is given in table 7, okay, and imperfection factor given in table 7 alpha for different buckling class. Now how we will decide a section is in which class of buckling section? So that will be decided from table number 10. Okay, and table 10 decided which section will belong to which buckling class. Okay, and then we have to calculate the slenderness ratio, and for slenderness ratio we have to use the value of effective length K times L. So how we will get the effective length? Effective length you have to obtain from table number 11. Okay, and here you have to calculate the KL by R, which is equal to effective slenderness ratio. Okay, and you have to use the appropriate radius of gyration also here. Now gamma MO is the partial safety factor for material strength. So here you see the three variables are there. One is the alpha value. Alpha is the different buckling classes having different imperfection factor, and then you have slenderness ratio KL by R. So here you have to calculate KL and R separately, and then you have yield stress of the material Fy. So if you know all these three values, Fy will be provided, and most of the time Fy is equal to 250 megapascal, mostly 250 megapascal only. Only we have to calculate the buckling class first of all, and then we have to get the imperfection factor alpha, and then we have to calculate the slenderness ratio, and then do this all these approach, and then calculate the value of FCD, and then we have to multiply this FCD with effective sectional area or the gross sectional area of the cross section, and then we will get the design compressive strength of the member. So this is the capacity of the member, and up to this load we can apply the compressive forces sufficiently and safely. Now this is all about the empirical approach, and here if you see, this is the table 7 which I have been talking most of the time. So here if you see, we have used different values of imperfection factor. Now these are the value of alpha values, okay, for different buckling classes. Now if my buckling class is A, then the value of alpha is 0.21. For buckling class B, alpha value is 0.34. Buckling class C, alpha value 0.49. Buckling class D, alpha value 0.76. So this table number 7 is very short, and we can look at this table again and again whenever we are doing the analysis of compression member. Now this important note is given here, and if you read this note, then you will understand the tabular approach importance. And it is said that all the calculated values of design compressive stress FCD directly is given for different buckling classes in table number 9. So that's why I was saying that in most of the cases we don't have to use the table number 8, because if we use the table number 8 and we directly get the value of X value from there and use this X value here in this formula and multiply it with Fy by gamma MO, and from here also we can get the value of FCD. So of course with that we can do, but already the value of FCD is calculated in table number 9. So just like table 8 was divided into 4 groups, table 9 is also divided into 4 parts, and that is table 9A for buckling class A, and 9B for buckling class B, and 9C for buckling class C, and 9D for buckling class D. All these 4 tables gives us the value of FCD directly. No worries. 4 different values of what? So here we have to know what is the value of Fy and what is the value of my lambda, which is equal to KL by R, slenderness ratio. Alright. So Fy, as I said, most of the time it is equal to 250, or if something else is given, then you have to use that value of Fy, and lambda value you have to calculate beforehand, and we have to know which table we have to use, 9A, 9B, 9C, 9D. So that's why we have to decide which buckling class our section belongs to. So it's very easy process, all right. And once you get the value of FCD, you just multiply it with the gross sectional area, easy, all right. And then from there we get the design compressive strength. So let us see what are these effective length of compression members. So it is given here also in this code 7.2 clause, and it is said that effective length is calculated from the actual length only, and considering the rotational and relative translational boundary. So see, what is rotational? Rotational means the degree of freedom in which the member can rotate, and translational means the degree of freedom in which the member can translate from one position to other position, all right. So in rotational degree of freedom, there is rotation at the same point, and in translational degree of freedom, there is translation from one point to another point, okay. So depending on different boundary conditions depends on the types of supports that we have provided at the end of the member. So depending on different support condition at the end, this effective length depends, okay. So actual length shall be taken as the length from center to center of its intersection with the supporting members in the plane of buckling deformation. So basically the distance between two supports of the compressive member. If there is one fixed support here and if there is one roller here, so we can say at fixed this is a pin support, and we can say at pin support there is only rotational degree of freedom, but at roller support we have rotational degree of freedom and translational degree of freedom also, whereas in this case translation was not allowed, all right. Similarly, if there is support condition like this, fixed support, so at fixed support there is neither rotation nor translational. So that's why effective length depends on the type of supports that we have provided at the end of the columns. So effective length we can calculate from which table? Table number 11, and I will be showing you also, all right. And then you can see from where this concept of alpha came, imperfection factor, and this is the table, foundation table of different buckling curves in the compression members. And here we see that there are 4 curves A, B, C and D. So all these 4 curves are 4 different buckling classes A, B, C and D, and it is calculated that the FCD by Fy ratio is calculated here, and we see that graph is constant till some value, and this is the value of critical value, some value, and after that graph deviates for different buckling classes due to different types of imperfection, because at this point buckling occurs. So now we will see different tables like table number 8, and here we are seeing table 8A. You see this table 8A, and this is for stress reduction factor X value for column buckling class A. So here you have yield stress Fy in megapascal and KL by R, slenderness ratio. And if you know these two value, mostly Fy is equal to 250 megapascal, and if your KL by R or the slenderness ratio is 45, somewhere lying in between 40 and 50, so you have to go from this line and you have C, and the value of X for 250 megapascal here is 0.939. Similarly for 50 you have to see the value of X in this row only, and for these two values now you have to do the interpolation, all right. So this is how we calculate the stress reduction factor. So table 8A is for the buckling class A, and table 8B is for the buckling class B, and all these are the tables of stress reduction factor. You can see table C again is given in the IS code for buckling class C, and then there is table number 8D for the stress reduction factor in buckling class D. So all these 4 tables will not be very useful for us right now because we are going to use only tabular approach. So these tables we are not going to use. We are going to directly use table 9. And this is very useful table for us. So let us understand this table. First of all, let us take table 9A only because this is for design compressive stress FCD for column buckling class A. Okay, so here again we have to know the value of yield stress Fy of our material that we have used for the cross section and the slenderness ratio of the member. So if the yield stress is 250 megapascal and my slenderness ratio is 82, so first of all I have to see the slenderness ratio is 80 here and 90 here. Now I check the values of FCD in this column of Fy. Okay, so it is equal to 167 megapascal, this unit here you can see megapascal, and for 90 slenderness ratio the value of FCD is 149. So for 80 the value of FCD is 167 and for 90 the value of FCD is 149. All right, now my value is 82 for the slenderness ratio. What is the value of FCD? Here we have to do the interpolation, and in interpolation see what we do basically. If you don't know, you just subtract these two values, 90 minus 80, then divide it by 149 minus 167, equate it, and now you do the similar practice here also. Here I have done 90 minus 82 and divide it by FCD 149 minus FCD. Now if you solve this equation, this is very easy. Here only FCD is unknown, so you will get the value of FCD. So this is how we do the interpolation, and we will do it in our numerical also. So this is now table number 9B for design compressive stress in buckling class B, and this is table number 9C for design compressive stress FCD in column buckling class C, and this is the last table number 9D for design compressive stress in buckling class D. All right, so we can use all these tables in the calculation of design compressive stress. Now we come to our table number 10, and as I said that this table will give you the buckling class for different types of cross sections. Now if you see in this table, the first column is about the cross section, and you have to check few limits of the cross section, and this column 3 is about the axis along which the buckling is occurring. Then we can get the buckling class in this column 4. All right, so here in the first column you can see different cross sections are there. So this is about the rolled I section, and then there is welded I section, and then there is hollow section. Okay, then there is welded box section. So this was welded I section, this is welded box section, and in this row if you see, it is about the channels, angles, T and solid sections, and in the last row there is only mention of built up members. So all the possible sections which are used in the design of compressive members are listed here. And then after deciding which cross section we are going to use, then we have to check few limits also here, like the ratio of height divided by the width of the flange BF. If it is greater than 1.2 and thickness of flange is less than 40 mm, and if the buckling is occurring about ZZ axis, then buckling class is A for the case of rolled I section. So all these different values of H, BF, TF, TW you will get from the steel table or at the end of the IS code also. And you know that there are two axes in any of the steel section. One is the horizontal axis, which is represented here by ZZ, and one is the vertical axis, which is represented here by YY. So most of the cases you will see that buckling will occur along the YY axis, not the ZZ axis. Okay, because if I take this mobile phone here, and if I say this is my cross section, and if I compress it, so we know that buckling will occur like this, isn't it? Like this. But if we compress very high compressive force, then it may be possible in some cases, if it is slender, that it may buckle like this. Okay, you see this? So there are two axes. One is this axis. Okay, this is YY axis, and one is ZZ axis. So in most of the cases there is chance of buckling along this YY axis, and the shape of buckling curve will be like this. In few cases only buckling can occur about this axis also, and in that case the curve of buckled face will be like this only. Okay, like this. So this is relatively less probable. So most of the time buckling will occur along the YY axis. You will see most of the time buckling occurs along the YY axis, and that's why the value of Ry is less than Rz, because there are two moment of inertia here, Iyy and Izz, and for different moment of inertia you have to use different radius of gyration. Okay, and for getting slenderness ratio KL by R, this is the value of my slenderness ratio, and we know that buckling strength depend on this value of lambda, slenderness ratio, and buckling strength will be minimum when lambda value is maximum, because we have seen that PCR was inversely proportional to lambda square. So if the value of lambda will increase, PCR will decrease. So we are going to calculate the minimum possible strength for the compressive strength. So we have to check for the maximum value of lambda. So the maximum slenderness ratio will be there at minimum value of radius of gyration. So which radius of gyration we have to choose, Ry or Rz? So most of you will agree that we will go for selection of Ry, because Ry is less than Rz, and that's why buckling will occur most of the time along the YY axis, not the ZZ axis. So that's why most of the time you have to choose this YY axis, and in that case buckling class will be B. But if it is given that buckling is occurring about ZZ axis, then the buckling class will become A. Alright. So all these limits have to be checked carefully. Alright. And all these values are given, and we will see in a numerical also how do we do it. Okay. So now if you come to the welded eye section, you have to again check these limits, and only one limit you have to check here basically. If TF is less than 40 mm, then you have to check which is the axis along which the buckling is occurring, most of the time YY axis, then your buckling class is C. And if the thickness of flange is greater than 40 mm, and then YY axis if you choose as the critical axis, then the buckling class will be D. Okay. So this is about the rolled eye section and welded eye section. Now let us come to the hollow section, and it says that in hollow section you don't have to check any limitation on the dimensions. Even if you use any of the hollow section, it will be only buckling class A, and if it is a cold formed, then the buckling class will be B. Similarly, for welded box section, if you use any section, it will be B, and if there are thick belts being used, then you can see that belts becomes the cause for change in the buckling classes, and it becomes C. Now this is very important, you all have to notice it, that it is good news for us that in channels, angle section, T section and all the solid sections, you don't have to check whether it is hot rolled, cold formed, or what is the buckling axis. It's even if whatever may be the case, all the time the buckling class will remain C. Okay. Similarly, in any of the built up member, whatever you built, it should not be builded box section or welded eye section. But in any case of the built up members, you don't have to check anything. In all the cases, buckling class will be C. So this is how we calculate the buckling class A, B, C and D. And for these buckling classes, we get the value of imperfection factor from table number 7. And then we directly go to table number 9. But for table number 9, we have to know the value of slenderness ratio. And slenderness ratio is calculated with the help of effective length and radius of gyration. Radius of gyration you can get from the steel table or the tables given at the end of the IS code. But what about the effective length? Now effective length is given in this last table, which is very important, which is table number 11, and it lists the effective length for different compression member under different boundary conditions. So you see here boundary conditions. So you can directly see the semantic representation here, and for those cases effective length is also listed. So in this case, first case, you can see that one boundary condition is fixed and other is free. Okay, so the same thing is written here. One boundary condition is fixed. What does it mean? At one end translation is restrained and rotation is restrained. So I said at fixed supports, translation and rotation both are restrained, and at other ends both are free. So that means that other end is free. So in that case effective length will be equal to 2 times the actual length. Similarly in this case also it will be equal to 2 times the actual length. Now if at the one's end there is pinned support, that means at pinned support there is restraint and translation but free in rotation. Similarly at second end also there is pinned end. So in that case we have to take effective length equal to 1 times the actual length, which is equal to actual length only. Whereas in case of this type of support in which one end is fixed and other is provided with rollers, so in that case effective length is 1.2 L. Similarly you can see when one end is pinned end and other is fixed, in that case we have to use 0.8 L. Now the last row is very important for all of us, because this is the most of the times you observe this type of boundary condition. When both of the ends are fixed, that means at both ends translation and rotations are restrained. Okay, so in that case the effective length is equal to 0.65 times L. And what do you see in all of the structures, multi-story buildings? The columns are having fixed support at both the ends, and here we use 0.65 L as the effective length. And then from here we can calculate the effective length, and then using the radius of gyration we calculate the value of lambda, and by using table 9 we get the value of FCD, and then you multiply it with the gross cross-sectional area to get the value of PD. Alright, so this is what we do in the calculation and the analysis of a simple or compound compression members. So we will be discussing one numerical problem also in the next video. Till that, stay tuned and stay safe. Thank you.